Leoka, thank you so much for joining us. Now, most African states complain bitterly that global ratings agencies such as S&P, Moody's and Fitch focus on the developed countries and then fail to fairly assess the emerging markets and the developing countries. Now, this has sparked concerns that Africa really needs its own credit ratings agencies. Do you agree to such a move?
I don't agree, only because firstly you need credibility in terms of your rating agency. So there are Asian rating agencies that are not followed globally. So the main three that we always hear about are the most reputable. They have a long track record. They also have very clear indicators in terms of how they analyze a country and how they how they downgrade or upgrade a country. So it's quite clear. If you have a twin deficit and growth is slow, like in the case of South Africa, you're likely to be downgraded in the next review session.
So if you disagree to such a move, do you realize the importance of being benchmarked on an international scale?
I think it's important. Look, we're not benchmarked against the US, for instance. We are benchmarked against other emerging markets, our EM peers. And if we see that more emerging markets, our peers, are moving from BBB to A, which is where the country like the US or the UK or many of the European countries are, then we should start wondering why we are not there, and that we are laggards, and that we should look at actually fixing some of the problems that restrain us or restrict us from moving up a few notches.
Do these external ratings agencies have sufficient local knowledge to chart African risk?
I think they do. Well, in the South African case, you have S&P and Moody's and Fitch actually are localized in the country, and these rating agencies do travel around the continent. I think that it would be a disservice for Africa to have its own rating agency, where this is, a continent that is still developing. It still has a lot to do, and yet if we benchmark against ourselves, you'd have two outliers, which is South Africa and Nigeria, and everyone else would be, below average, would be below even your investment grade, which is not, which defeats the point of having an African rating agency. I think that if you rate yourself, this is a global economy, and at least, and we belong to a global environment. So if you have to compare yourself against other countries that are like yours globally. And the reason why we have rating agencies is that investors use it to invest. So especially those that are what they call tracker funds. So tracker funds would typically look at, let's say, BBB countries, if that's their mandate, and will only invest in BBB countries, or will only invest in investment grade countries, and anything that's sub-investment grade they won't touch. So I think having an African one, you're just exposing yourself to being sub-investment grade for at least a good chunk, like 80% of the continent, and also having a global ratings agency or ratings category. It allows you as a country to then benchmark yourself against others and see where you are lagging behind.
So many think tanks have been highly critical of Moody's decision to downgrade the economy of Nigeria. But then in their criticism, we have to take into cognizance the fact that the country has been very slow in implementing structural economic reforms, and they still have weak institutions, they're still battling with corruption, and as well as a vulnerability of oil price decline. You reckon that's a fair assessment?
I think it is. There are a lot of risks in the Nigerian economy. It is the biggest economy on the continent, which is a plus for them. But at the same time, they have huge issues, structural issues, electricity supply issues, which restrain growth. As you said, the oil price falling does have a negative impact on the economy, given how much the economy relies on oil revenues. They have an infrastructure backlog, which is also an impediment to growth. And these are the things that rating agencies would look at. And they would compare, let's say, Nigeria with a Colombia and see where Colombia is versus Nigeria. And that's what countries like Nigeria or even Ghana or the East African countries need to look at before they can be upgraded.